was a young girl sitting on her grandfather's lap. Do any of you have grandparents? You do?
Thank you.
And she was sitting on their grandfather's lap, and she's noticing all of his wrinkles. Do your grandfather have wrinkles? You could, but they can't hear you.
Totally not.
Totally up?
No,
Yeah. Well, she's looking at her grandfather's all the wrinkles on his skin and spots. You know how you get older, you get spots all over your face, your neck, and you get it on your hands. I'm getting a lot of spots. And the little girl sitting on her grandfather's lap says, "Grandpa, were you made by God?" And Grandpa says, "Yes, I was. But it was many years ago." And the little girl looks at him and says, "Well, was I made by God?" And the grandfather looks and says, "Yes, you were in love made by God, but much more recently." The little girl looked at her grandfather and said, "Well, God must be getting a lot better." Get that? Because she didn't have the wrinkles or the spots. So God's got it figured out now, right? I'm going to talk to you today about life's choices. You did a good job reading. Father, good job. Good job reading. Life's choices is what I want to talk to you about. The first reading today is from who?
Job.
Job. You said that right. A lot of people get up there and say Job. J-O-B. But it's Job. You did it perfectly. Now, Job is, do you know that that's one of the oldest stories they say ever written? Ever written. And it's a story about good and evil and how we fight those demons inside of us and how we make the right choices in life. And in today's reading, you heard a story where Job is in a really low point. He's very sad. He's very upset. He's saying, "Woe is me. Everything bad is happening to me." Have you ever had bad days where you think, "Well, I just feel bad today. It's horrible, like everything I do is turning wrong"? Have you ever felt that way? Well, Job is feeling that times a million because he's lost his wife, his children, he's lost all of his land, he's lost all of his cattle, he's lost everything. And he's saying, "Everything I do is bad and wrong." And he's feeling basically, "Woe is me, it's bad." Right? But if you read the rest of the book of Job, you find that he gets everything back. He gets his family back, he gets his cattle back, he gets his life back better than it was before. What made the difference? Why do you think he went from being so sad in today's reading to all of a sudden everything was good? Yeah?
I know the story, but I don't know specifically about how I'm supposed to correlate it with the story.
Because it's important. It's about choices. It's about a choice he made.
Choices?
A choice he made. What choice do you think he made?
Oh, didn't he choose to be good even in his most miserable time?
Exactly. He chose to be good and to focus on who?
God.
On God in his most miserable time. What were you going to say? What choice do you think he made? He chose to follow God. He chose to trust God. That's what we have to learn from the story of Job in our own life. When we're feeling bad, when we're feeling like the whole world is against us, we have to stop looking at our problems and to focus on God and choose God. Does that make sense? Now, in the second reading, we heard St. Paul in his letter to the church of Corinth, the Corinthians. He says, "Woe to me if I don't preach." He's out there preaching the word of God, and he says, "I don't want to boast, I don't want to brag about the fact that I'm preaching or that I was called by God. I feel that I have to do this because I've been given this gift from God." Have you been given any gifts from God? What?
Good.
What?
Good at sports.
Good, you're good at sports. And so when you feel you're good at sports, don't you want to get out there and do more of it?
Yeah.
And that's how Paul was feeling. God gave me this wonderful gift, and now I have to go out and show people and talk to people. Yes?
My gift from God is being alive and having life.
Your gift from God is that you have a life.
Exactly.
And that he gave you life.
Pretty much.
And
yeah.
so what do you do with it?
I live life.
You live life, and you live it by sharing with other people.
Exactly.
And that's what Paul is saying. And he's saying, I don't want special recompense for this. I don't want anything other than the opportunity to share it with other people. So that he made a choice too. He made a choice to accept his gifts. You accept your gifts of being good at sports, right? And you do what you can with it. So in the gospel today, we find Jesus. It's the Gospel of Mark. And Jesus goes and visits Simon Peter's mother-in-law. Now, it's interesting we hear about his mother-in-law because we never hear about his wife. Did you know that? There's no mention in the Gospels about St. Peter's wife. But we know he's married. Why? Because he has a mother-in-law. And you don't get one without the other. Does that make sense? Yeah. So we know that he was married, but his wife is not mentioned at all in the Gospels. And what does Jesus do? He gives us 3 ways for us to live our lives so that we make the right choices in our lives. First, when he comes to the house and he learns that Simon Peter's mother-in-law is ill, what is the first thing Jesus does? Father just read it so well, yes? What did Peter do to the mother-in-law who was very ill with a very bad fever?
Make her feel better.
Made her feel better. Exactly right. Yes. He went immediately. The first thing he did was he went to her to meet her needs, to help her out, right? That's what Jesus did. So we should learn from that if we want to make the right choices in life, the first thing we should do is stop looking at ourselves and our problems, but look for ways we can help others. Does that make sense? Yes, and it's interesting because it says that she immediately got up and served the mother-in-law. How many of you have ever had a flu or a fever? You have? Don't you feel horrible?
Yeah.
You feel sick, your head hurts, your stomach aches, right? You're horrible. Maybe you have a very hot, you're sweating from the fever. Have you ever felt that? But when the fever's over, do you immediately get up or are you still pretty tired? You're still pretty worn out and tired for a few more days, right? In the Bible today, the gospel verse today, it says when Jesus healed the mother-in-law, she immediately got up. What do you think that tells us? Yes? She feels better, yes. But what is the difference between when we have a fever get better and this woman in today's reading?
In today's reading, she just like sprung up, and for us, we have to wait like a day or 2.
We have to wait a day or 2. So maybe the lesson in there is that when Jesus heals, when God heals, it's total and it's complete and it's immediate. Does that make sense? And that's wonderful. And by the way, that wasn't my idea. That St. Jerome wrote that back in the 2nd century, that he recognized that when Jesus heals, it's immediate and it's complete. So the first thing we learn from Jesus to make the right choices in life is to be there for other people. And the second thing, what does it say that Jesus did early in the morning? It said he got up early in the morning and he went by himself to pray. So the next thing we have to do first is focus less on ourselves and more on how we can help other people. And then we have to pray. We have to make talking to God a priority. Like make it the first thing we do in the morning is what Jesus was doing, showing us. What does priority mean? Yeah?
Priority is like, oh wait, that's kind of hard. That's hard to describe priority. Okay, it's like a goal kind of in a way.
So how would you make praying a priority?
Oh.
In a priority, you would like set kind of like a goal, like throughout the week,
Yeah.
to go to like the church or just to pray. So you'll have like set times. Or
You'd make it a
set
goal,
days.
set times. How about in your calendar? Would you put it in your calendar? Like, do you put your sporting events and your sport practice in a calendar so you remember it, right?
Yeah.
But do you ever put, I'm going to pray in your calendar? So what do you think is more important?
Oh, to pray.
Huh?
Praying.
Praying is more important, but we don't make it more important. We make our sporting events or we make other things that we're going to do more important. So what Jesus is saying, if you're going to make the right choices in life, you have to make prayer important. Does that make sense? Make it a priority. And then the third thing we learn from Jesus is after he's helped the mother-in-law, after he's prayed, he goes out and uses his gifts for other people. He goes out into the world and shares the gifts, which is exactly what we saw St. Paul doing. So how do we use our gifts? What gifts do you have that you can share? Yes?
Good at building and figure out things, like science on building.
Building? Building what?
Like doing like science, chemistry sets and...
Oh, in other words, be people who create new things that would make the world better. That's right. But what gifts do you have, yes?
My gifts that I have is when somebody's birthday is happening, I give one of my toys to them.
You do? Well, that's wonderful. I'll tell you something you all have, a gift you all have that you could share with everybody today. The ability to smile. The ability to make people feel welcome. Can you do that? So that's a gift that you can go out to your family, to friends, and just share yourself and your smile with them. Can I count on that? So we want to make the right choices in our life. That comes from the readings, and the way we do it is by what? Helping others. And what's number 2?
Smiling.
No.
Praying.
Praying and making it a priority. And what's number 3?
Wait.
Share yourself and your gifts with other people. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right. God bless you guys. You're perfect. And don't make fun of your grandparents